winners. Let the pros show you how to make money. General Manager Al DeMarco, a regular contributor on Fox Sports, MSNBC, and Comcast Sports TV, brings over 25 years of handicapping experience to the table. CEO Steve Budin, the author of Bets, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, is the man responsible for creating the online betting industry. Together, they lead PickNation.com, your number one source for winners.
The favorites finally got their groove back in Week 12. The Chalks going 14-2 straight up. More importantly for our purposes, 10-6 versus the odds makers, snapping an amazing 4-week run where the underdogs went 36-19-2 against the spread. Now entering Week 13's action, 176 games on the books this season. The Puppies clinging to a slim 4-game edge at the cashier's window in Vegas, where they're 89-85-2 on the season. And it just goes to show you, Steve, that we can talk about who's got the edge for hours on end, but like I've always maintained, every game is a 50-50 proposition. As you can see, they play out pretty much evenly over the course of a season, which lends credence to what I've always said, that you've got to limit the number of games that you play in order to maximize your winning percentage. Hi, everyone. I'm Al DeMarco. With me, Steve Budin. Every single Sunday throughout this football season, we're joining you right here, breaking down the games from a point spread and gambling perspective. 4 games we'll be isolating today: Chicago, St. Louis, Denver, Kansas City, San Diego, Cleveland, and perhaps one of the most entertaining games and interesting games to handicap today, Indianapolis and Tennessee. And a little later in the show, Steve and I will be discussing the importance, once again, of knowing when to place your bets and why it's so crucial to shop around for the best price.
Our customers learned that lesson last week. We're going to talk about that later.
Exactly, with that Arizona-Tennessee contest, in fact. But first, let me get back to the point on why it's so important to be selective on the number of games you play. You know, last week, for example, I had 3 selections. Denver on Thanksgiving night, beating the Giants outright. Last Sunday, Minnesota crushing Chicago. And then, of course, Monday night didn't get any easier than that on the Saints. And, of course, last week, I think you swept the board as well, right?
Perfect again. Sunday with the Costa Rica crew, extending their streak now to 5-0 on the season. And then Monday, our big bad boys, the Baltimore crew, came in with my biggest play of the year, a 50-dime play with the Saints. I'm obviously looking to keep that momentum going this week.
And I think that the Baltimore crew, I think for you, are now 17-4 over the past 3 years.
3 years. And a lot of people don't realize that. They look at the record. They think maybe it's this year or the last 2 years. That's a 3-year record, and that's impressive.
And that just shows you 3 years of NFL action, and they've had a total of 22 plays. And that's what I mean about being selective. There's a crew, a syndicate crew out there that makes its money betting games, and they've had a total of 22 plays over a 3-year stretch in the NFL. So once again, and I've always said, you know, in my youth, if there were 40 games on the board, I'd find a way to bet 42 of them. As I got smarter, I got into this business as a professional, I know darn right well you've got to find the couple of key selections and hammer those few games, and that's how you make money in this business.
We call it picking your spots and taking your shots, and that's why the ratings are so very important, not just the picks.
Exactly. Listen, before we get started here breaking down the games, a few more ATS trends for you to digest today. Road teams, 94-80-2 against the spread after going 7-9 versus the number last week. And those straight-up winners continue to be money in the bank. Only 12-4 last week to improve to 139-35-2 at the betting window during the regular season. By the way, throw in the preseason, those straight-up winners are 195-40-6 against the spread. Not bad, 80% winners on the year. If only we had a magic formula to pick those straight-up winners every single week, and we cash in all the time in Vegas. Now let's kick it off with our first game today between Chicago and St. Louis. The Bears, the big favorite, of course, not surprisingly, even though they've lost 6 of their last 7. Of course, Bears getting hammered last week by Minnesota on the road. The Rams, meanwhile, coming off a 27-17 home loss to Seattle. Not a great game, not one we're going to be watching on TV, but it's a bettable game.
Definitely bettable, not fun to watch. The Bears, losers of 4 straight games, bet all their chips on gunslinger Jay Cutler, who's thrown 20, count them, 20 interceptions so far this season. The Chicago defense got bitch slapped by Favre and the Vikes last week to the tune of 537 yards. And let me tell you something, the St. Louis Ram offense is going to look like it's moving in slow motion compared to what they faced last week. The Rams, they score an average of 11 points a game, which just won't be enough to cover against the Bears in Chicago. I think you got to lay the wood here with the Bears. And Al, if they don't win this game, they won't win another game in December.
What was this?
That was the slow motion. That was the slow motion of the offense. That's how it's going to look.
I thought it was something like from the $6
Man.
million
It's a Matrix
thing.
It's a Matrix thing.
Okay. Hey, the one thing I'll say about the Bears loss last week, the 36-10 loss, I'm surprised it was only 36-10. 169 total yards in that game for Chicago. Vikings had the ball 41 minutes compared to just 19 for the Bears. And in the second half, Bears only had -2 yards and ran 12 plays in that game. But the one thing, Chicago is 3-0, both straight up and against the spread at home this year. And the 3 wins come against losing teams, Seattle, Cleveland, and Detroit, 34-16 average. They won those games. And in those games, they scored 25, 30, and 48 points, their highest offensive output of the season. This is the Rams' first road game in 5 weeks. They're 1-4 straight up on the road. Average points in those games, just 9 points. Both teams bad against the run. I think the key here, though, is the Rams' pass defense. They're number 22 in the league.
Exactly.
Give up 65% against the pass this year. Only 18 sacks, only 8 interceptions. That's good news for Jay Cutler, considering he's thrown 20 interceptions this year, 52 the past 3 years. So in this game, I'm going to go with the Bears in this one, although I always caution you, it's tough to put good money on bad teams, but I'm going to go with Chicago.
I agree. If Cutler's going to have a good game, this is the spot.
Exactly. Now, next game is going to be Denver and Kansas City. The Broncos, of course, snapping that 4-game skid with the 26-6 upset of the Giants on Thanksgiving night. Kansas City, of course, crushed 43-14 by San Diego last Sunday, but they still covered 5 of their last 7.
Denver historically never plays good when they go to KC. But then again, this isn't the same old Denver team under coach Josh McDaniels. And now that quarterback, Kyle Orton, has gotten a little extra rest and seems to finally be injury-free. Let's face it, he's going to have his way with this KC defense, which just won't be able to stop those short 5 to 7 yard passes that the Broncos mix up so well with their running game. I think laying the 5 points here with the new and improved Broncos is like a little bit of an early Christmas present. I'm going to take that Christmas present here and lay the wood with the Broncos.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And also, let's just consider this. It's like the Broncos have a little mini bye because they get the 2 extra days of prep because they played on Thanksgiving night. But the Broncos have never played well at Kansas City. They have lost 17 of their last 18 straight up at Arrowhead in the month of December. They failed to cover in 8 of their last 10 visits to Kansas City. But again, the key here is Denver's pass defense, number 5 in the league. 32 sacks, that's the 4th most in the NFL, versus a Kansas City team that's allowed 38 sacks this season. That's the 2nd most, right behind the Packers. Denver's only allowed 10 touchdown passes, guys, in 11 games this season. Meanwhile, Kyle Orton should not feel any pressure against a Kansas City pass rush that doesn't exist. Only 14 sacks in 11 games. And Kansas City's been outgained by an average of 124 yards a game this season at home, where they've yielded 402 yards a game. The only reason I didn't use Denver as my best bet today, look ahead. They go to Indianapolis next week. But all things considered, I agree with you. I would go ahead and lay it with Denver.
Yeah, it's a strong free pick. Basically, the good team against the bad team. You always go with the good team.
Exactly. Hey, we're going to take a short break. When Steve and I return, we're going to discuss the importance of knowing when to place your bets and why it's so crucial, guys, to shop around for the best price. We're going to use last Sunday's Titans Cards game as a prime example as to why.